You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com. Hello. Yes, and welcome to the Mike Riley Now podcast here on the Young Angels of America Network. I am your host, of course, Mr. Mike Riley. We are broadcasting all the way live here from Los Angeles, California. We want to welcome everybody. Of course, I'm joined by my lovely co-host, Miss Cam Robson, and my girl, Charlie Sandy. Say hello, ladies. Welcome.
Hi.
So good to have you here. It is Thursday, May the 25th, 2017. Welcome, everybody, to the show. Of course, I got to give a big shout out to everybody that's listening to us on Spreaker, on iTunes, on Facebook Live. We got listeners on iHeartRadio and Google Play and all that cool stuff. Make sure you log on to MikeRileyNow.com. Make sure you follow us on the Facebook, Twitters, Instagrams, and all that other cool stuff. Lucky enough, we have a live audience tonight. Yes, we have Amy and Gabby in the house. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate that. Give you a little mock clap here. Yes, you can always, if you ever want to see the Mike Riley Now podcast live, if you feel like making a trip to the west side of LA, you can always check us out live. We enjoy our live studio audience. And then, of course, we have Miss Brooke Doherty in the house, the executive director of the Young Angels Network in the building. So, yay, what's up, everybody? What's going on? So welcome back to another exciting week of Damn. You know,
change the title of the show, Mike.
Yeah, we should just change it to like
Damn.
America, your new favorite reality TV show.
Right. It's like, what happened this week? It's always something. I swear. But before I get into, we're running a little bit late because we had a little bit of technical difficulties earlier. So we're going to have to extend some of the stuff we're going to talk about in the show. We actually have a special guest on the show tonight. That we're going to be featuring. We're going to be talking to Miss Morgan Geffner. She is one of the main organizers for the Women's March here in Los Angeles. And she was one of the main people that put that together. So we're going to be talking to her tonight and getting her take on a few things. And she'll be calling in. So that's something to look forward to. And before we get into some heavy stuff, last weekend I went to the California State Democratic Convention out in Sacramento. And man, let me tell you, it was an amazing time. So I want to say what's up to everybody I met out there. And I'll be honest with you, man. I consider myself somebody who's pretty politically savvy for the most part. And I walked in there and was like overwhelmed by how much stuff was going on. I mean, there was just so much that's involved in party politics as far as like caucuses and delegates and committee precinct people. And there was this huge race for who was going to be the California State or who's going to be the chair for the California State Democratic Party between this young lady named Kimberly Ellis and this other guy named Eric Bonham who won. And now they're the California Democratic Party is going to actually audit that election. And it's just a huge thing. And there were thousands of people there, and most of the people there were actually under 40. So that just goes to show you that our generation is getting involved in the process, which is an amazing thing, which is a really good thing. So shout out to everybody I met out there at the California State Democratic Convention. I will be going again next year, and I definitely encourage all my young emerging people who want to get involved in the process to join your local party and get involved in the process. It's a really cool thing. So before we get into the main topic, let's jump on some things. I really want to talk about, so this week has been like thing after thing after thing after thing. Like to start with, Donald Trump, my favorite person in the world, he calls up, he's becoming one of them because he always gives me something to talk about. He calls up the president of the Philippines, right? This transcript comes out. We talked about this guy before, this Duterte guy. This guy who's like notoriously known for like murdering drug dealers, and he declared martial law out there in the Philippines, and
real good guy.
Yeah, hardcore dude,
yeah.
Straight thug. And Donald Trump seems to have like a fondness for these dudes for some reason. He calls the guy up and says, "Man, I really like what you're doing with your drug war out there." He's like giving him props on the whole thing. And then to make matters worse, Donald Trump says, "So what do you think we should do about North Korea?" And Duterte is like, "I don't know, man. They're going to be a problem." He's like, "Don't worry about it. I got 2 nuclear slubs out there right now." He's like, he's giving away our war secret. Like, what the fuck?
It's not just giving away America. He's giving away every other country.
Every other country, like,
secret.
hello. I mean, there's a leaky faucet in Washington right now.
Hell yeah.
I mean, I am not gonna lie. There needs to be a plumber in the house because it is leaking out there. Somebody's leaking everything. I mean, nothing's a secret in Washington. So you better make sure if you're doing something, you're doing it legit. And then on top of that, Trump, he traveled to the Middle East this week and he visited a number of different countries. He went to Saudi Arabia, and he gave them a whole bunch of props. Basically, a lot of the Shiite Muslim countries. And of course, he went to Israel and didn't realize he was still in the Middle East when he went to Israel. Not going there, but
didn't pass high school geography.
Yeah, we're not. He's just where's the Middle East? But Trump made this huge deal with the Saudi government to sell him a whole bunch of weapons. And the Saudi government right now, they're the Shiites. They're engaged in a huge war, and with the I forget the name of the other Muslim tribe, but they're huge. They're engaged in this huge war in Yemen, which is right next door. And Rand Paul, actually a Republican, is trying to block this. He's trying to block the sale of this arms deal. So Donald Trump managed to do that. He managed to push the poor head of NATO out of the way for a picture today. I thought that was funny. Hey, get the fuck out the way.
What are you, Montenegro? Move.
Get the hell out the way, son. This is America. And then I thought that was pretty hilarious. And then he released his budget for 2018. And we're not going to get much into that. We'll talk about that later. But it's like, holy shit.
$2 trillion
like
off
crap.
the mark.
You know what? He met with the historically...
Pocket money.
Yeah, just like, oh, screw it. Earlier this year when he met with the historical black colleges, and he was like, man, I promise you guys, I'm going to hook you guys up, and I'm going to look out for the HS or the HBC. I can't say it. That historically black colleges. He cut their budget. he cut. I mean, the budget hasn't passed, but God, geez, man. So there was that, and then the CBO released their report on Trump's healthcare bill. Now the CBO is the Congressional Budget Office or something along those lines, and it's completely nonpartisan, which means they don't take sides in either side. And they came out and said straight up that healthcare bill will throw 23 million plus people off of healthcare, and people were just like, really?
So basically, they called the healthcare bill a joke.
A joke. Pretty much what it was. Yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, this has just been a bad week. And then Trump's travel ban got blocked again today. And then to make matters worse for the Republican Party, right? So there's this special election going on in Montana tonight, May the 25th. I think the polls are closed now. We get to see the elections, see the results. But so there's a special election going on. And Montana, as big ass as a state as that is, only has one congressman that represents the entire state. Every state gets 2 senators, but your congresspeople, your representatives, are based upon the population of your state. So like California has like 1 billion of them, but
Montana's mostly farms.
Yeah, it's like mostly just like mountains and moose and shit. So they only have one representative. And
I think you mean cows.
Yeah, cow. Mooses. I meant mooses.
Are there meese?
Are we in Canada or something? Is that their version of a cow?
They all look the same to me. All those deer-like animals. That was pretty racist, wasn't it, to say that?
You're an outdoors man, aren't you?
I'm not really. But so there's this guy who's running. His name is Greg Gianforte or something along those lines. So this reporter from The Guardian, I don't remember the brother's name, he comes in and he's trying to ask the dude a question about that same healthcare bill we were just talking about. And then when that happened, according to eyewitnesses, the dude that's running for Congress body slammed the guy from The Guardian. I have the audio here. Listen to it.
And we'll talk to you about that later.
Yeah, but there's not going to be time. I'm just curious if you
Okay,
have the
speak
right
with
now.
Shane, please.
But you don't.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last time that came in here, you did the same thing. Get the hell out of here. Get the hell out of here. The last guy did the same thing. You were the Guardian.
Yes, and you just broke my glasses.
The last guy did the same damn thing.
You just body slammed me and broke my glasses.
Get the hell out of here.
Glad he kept his composure.
Straight SummerSlam 88 all day. So he got charged with misdemeanor assault on the eve of the election. So that was pretty interesting. So it's been a pretty interesting week, and I haven't even gotten to like the Jared Kushner stuff or any of that other stuff. But the big thing that happened this week, obviously, was there was this terrorist attack that took place in Manchester, England, right? So, you know, as everybody knows, there's this Ariana Grande concert that happened, and, you know, there were people there. And towards the end of the concert, there were these two big explosions, and 23 people got killed, and a whole bunch of others got injured. And ISIS, the terrorist group, or the Islamic group, militant group ISIS, claimed responsibility for it. And basically it was, you know, obviously, you know, it was a terrorist attack. And this obviously took the world, you know, once again by surprise. Shook us, not by surprise, I should say, but I should really say it really took us, it shook us up again. You know, we're talking about terrorism once again. Now it's back on the agenda. Now it's back on the map. And I really want to open up this subject about actual terrorism. First thing I want to talk about before I get into that. So when this happened, I think this happened, when did it happen? On Monday, maybe? Or I want to say it was on Monday when it happened. When this first happened, one of my friends asked me, he was like, you know, he hadn't found out what had happened yet, and I'll pay attention to the news and everything. And he asked me, he was like, Mike, so what happened out in England? And I said, well, these people went to a concert and there was these explosions and 23 people got killed. And he was like, so, you know, he's like, and I told him, they think it was a terrorist attack. That's what I said. I told him, I said, you know, they suspect it was a terrorist attack. They suspect it was terrorism, but they don't know yet. And my friend kind of looked at me puzzled. He was like, what do you mean they suspect it's terrorism? It's terrorism. Somebody went in and killed a bunch of people for no reason.
Caused terror.
Yeah, caused terror. Now, my mind associated terrorism with
Radical Islam.
Radical Islam. That's the first thing. It was like a synonymous thing for me. Now, we all know terrorism comes in many different forms, in many different shapes, in many different sizes, and many different colors. I think more people have been killed in the United States by extreme right-wing terrorists than actual Muslim terrorists or Islamic terrorists. And what really defines an actual terrorist? I was reading this story on Newsweek earlier today, and I'll read you an excerpt from it. It said, U.S.-led coalition airstrikes in Iraq and Syria may have already killed 1,484 civilians in just Iraq and Syria this month alone. This article was dated back in March. It said more than 3 times the number killed in President Barack Obama's final month in office, according to the British monitoring group Air Wars. The U.S. military said that on Saturday that a U.S. coalition strike hit an area in the Islamic State-held Iraq city of Mosul, where officials on the ground said about 200 civilians may have been killed. Basically, they say that ISIS kind of rigged up this building with explosives, and they put 2 snipers on the roof. And when the U.S. Air Forces found out about it, they bombed it, and it blew up, and they had like about 150 civilians in the basement that got killed. So I'm curious to know from y'all out there in TV land and podcast land as well, what really, you know, if I was living in Yemen or someplace like that, and I'm sitting here hanging out with my friends like I am right now, and a bomb from some drone in the United States came and blew me up, my friends up, and 23 of us got killed. That would, who makes who the terrorist at that point? There's no hashtags. There's no worldwide movement. There's no UN thing. There's just, 30 people just got killed.
Casualties to Americans only seem to matter if it's their own kind, right, or their quote-unquote allies. It doesn't become about human life anymore. It doesn't become about the fact that regardless of whether this person was a different culture, different religion, different race than you, that it was still a life lost and an innocent one. Right. And I think, we're all devastated about what happened in London. Oh, sorry, what happened in England, in Manchester. Right. Because the majority of people in Manchester, I can vouch for this, I have half my family in Manchester, are Judeo-Christian, are white, are, working and middle class, and are a US ally. So Americans can connect with them. They see themselves
it's a
in
Western
these people. It's a Western kind of civilization.
Right.
So
it's
mourn
almost
it.
not even like it's like a reflection to us.
Yeah, it's like
we see ourselves. We don't
Yeah.
have to change any of the image at all that they portray because
Exactly.
they are us.
Yeah,
Exactly.
lots of people in America have obviously travelled to England as well in the UK, but very few people, plan their vacations to Yemen, plan their vacations to Syria,
or Saudi Arabia,
any of these places where we're attacking. And so it's really difficult to find yourself in these people and to take a step back and realize that despite all these differences that America seems to force like everyone into different categories, there's still one category that everyone belongs to, and it's freaking human being.
Being a human being.
Yeah.
100%, Charlie. Absolutely. And those types of situations where we collect collateral damage based upon our war on terror, it doesn't necessarily solve the problem now, does it? I mean, where do these you create terrorists that way. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this is an easy fight. At the end of the day, there is, let me back this up just a little bit, okay? Now, shit just doesn't come from nowhere. There has to be a source to something. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that within a small sect of Islam, there's radical jihadists and radical people who want to take down Western civilization, and they want to kind of create an Islamic state. And they do that in a violent way. And I get that. I understand that. And that does have to be stopped. But at the same time, there are a number of those people who kind of associate themselves with that belief based upon the things that they've been experiencing. Like when we went and invaded Iraq, when we blow up their countries, when we do stuff like that. I mean, hell, you hear all these white nationalists always talking about everybody wants to come to Western countries. That's because the Western countries fucked everybody else's countries up.
How do we expect them not to retaliate?
Exactly. Of course they're going to retaliate.
They attacked us, we'd retaliate like hell.
Hell. No joke.
Would wipe them off the face of the planet.
And the scariest part about it is you're not fighting a state.
Fighting a state of mind.
Fighting a state of mind. That's what you're dealing with.
And we don't know how to handle that. We don't understand how you can fight a state of mind. And so we then try to force that upon a physical group of people because you can't find a state of mind, so you're going to fight a state.
Yeah, you're going to bomb Afghanistan. You're going to bomb Yemen. You're going to bomb Pakistan.
It's like wanting to fight white supremacy, so you bomb every single previous Confederate state.
Yeah, that's pretty exactly.
Doesn't solve it, but they do it. It's exactly what we're doing.
And really, that's what makes a terrorist. That's what makes somebody want to take that out on the West. Now, like I said, don't get me wrong. I understand there's ISIS and there's ISIL and there's Al-Qaeda, and a lot of them are very hell-bent on, Sharia law. They want to create a world where the entire world is based upon Sharia law.
And the irony of it is they want to go back to a time before computers and electronics and things like that. And they do it by using computers and electronics.
Right, exactly. There is the irony in that. And they do need to be stopped. Absolutely. Because what happened in Manchester is absolutely ridiculous. It's a very cowardly thing to do, to walk into an arena where people are trying to have a good time and blow them up. I don't understand. Even if you are trying to fight the West and you're trying to fight the enemy, how is that your enemy?
They're not guilty of living the life they were born into.
Exactly.
And it's also, I think one of the things about this particular terrorist attack that is so haunting is that there were many concerts before it, and there were many concerts after it that were geared towards a more mature audience.
Right.
Ariana Grande is specifically
there are children in there,
children to young adult
kids in there.
Age range, targeting that show. I mean, the day before there was a Take That concert where it's going to be no one pretty much under the age of 25. But you've got this one where it's specifically targeted to get as many children as possible. Innocents. Arguably the most innocent people of an entire culture are children.
Right. Absolutely.
And you're still targeting them.
And you went and targeted them. Now, the crazy thing about it is the guy that did it, or the guy that they suspected that did it, I suppose. I don't really know the most information on it, but apparently there's this guy that did it. He was this young guy, and he was born and raised in the UK. He went to Libya, and they said that's where he got radicalized. But he's from England, which proves another thing about this travel ban, that these terrorists are homegrown, man. They're not coming from all these countries that the president is trying to block. They're not, like I said, why block a state? You're not dealing with, a fucking state. You're dealing with a state of mind. You're dealing with something different. And how you stop a state of mind, how you stop a belief in the human mind is the highest form of cognition. People were willing to die for their beliefs. That's a good question. And, I don't really know, in as much as I hate to say this, I hope to God I'm wrong. We're going to see another terrorist attack pretty soon. Or not pretty soon, but sooner or later. Because this particular fight is not going to be won this way.
And it's not going to be one with something like a travel ban, because imagine taking like a line.
Right. Go ahead, you can keep talking. We got a little bit of time.
Imagine taking like a lion cub, and it's been fine and it's been free and it's not harming anybody, and then shoving it into a cage. Right. And then teaching it can't escape the cage. Yeah. It's going to get freaking pissed at the person that's doing that.
Listening to the Mike we'll be right back, podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com. All right, y'all. Yes. And welcome back to the Mike Riley Now podcast here on the Young Angels of America Network. I am your host, Mike Riley. You probably already know that by now. We have a kind of the show tonight is kind of going on a weird time cycle, so just bear with me. It's all good, though. It's because we had technical difficulties earlier, and I'm running on the clock, and I want to get everything in. And that is the beautiful part about podcasts versus the rest of media, is we can do whatever we want. That's a cool thing, yeah. As long as y'all are listening to it. So, like I said, we have a special guest calling in tonight. She should be calling in here in the next couple of minutes here. It is going to be Miss Morgan Geffner. Like I said, she was she helped organize the Women's March here in Los Angeles. And we're going to be talking to her about a few of those issues. And later on in the show, hopefully in the third segment, if we have time, we're going to talk about a couple more things. I want to talk about what's going on in the South right now. There's this huge push to move all these Confederate monuments in New Orleans and to take down the Confederate flag off the Mississippi state flag. And it's causing this huge uproar in the old Confederacy. So we're going to be kind of discussing that a little bit. And we're also going to be talking about animal rights, because there's been some weird stuff that's been going on in the news concerning our kin from the other side, the animal kingdom. That's the best way I can put it. The other day,
evolutionary brothers.
Yeah, our evolutionary cousins.
Our wild counterparts.
Yeah. Now, the other day I was talking to somebody about bugs. I think we were talking about roaches. Don't ask me how I got in that conversation, but I referred to them as our six-legged cousins, and this person started just cracking up. They were like, six-legged cousins. But while we're waiting for Miss Geffner to call in, why don't we get into a little bit of news of the week, I suppose. Let me see if I can pull some up here. I know I had some pretty cool stories. Hold on real quick. Let me see here. Hold on. Oh, yeah. So Iran had their, or Iran, as some people call it, had their election last week. and I'm gonna butcher this guy's name, but the incumbent President Hassan Rouhani, Rouhani, he won a re-election again, which is kind of a big deal, because had the more conservative dude got in there, it probably would have shook things up a little bit. And this was one of the guys who negotiated. This is one of the guys who negotiated the Iran deal and stuff like that. So, we'll see what happens with that. I try to keep up with the like national election or international elections and stuff that goes on as much as I can. Oh, this must be our special guest. Hold on real quick. Give me 1 second. Let's see here. Hello, Morgan? Hello?
Hello?
Hello, Morgan? Hello? Can you hear me? I don't think she can hear me. Hold on. Uh-oh. Hello? Can you hear me?
Hello?
Hello? Can you hear me? Can you hear me? I don't think she can hear me. Hold on. Hello? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? I don't think she can hear me. Hold on. Brooke, can you have her can you have her call us back? I think something wrong with the connection here.
She can't hear anything on her end.
Oh, she can't hear anything. Is there a mute button on? Because that happens sometimes. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen. This happens in radio. Hold on real quick. Okay, why don't you have her call us back? And then give me 1 second here.
All right, she's trying again.
Okay, give me 1 second. Give me 1 second. Hold on.
Play the Jeopardy music in the background.
Yeah, we'll play some. Pretend like you're listening to Jeopardy music, audience out there. I think Charlie has a joke she wants to tell you. Remember that joke you had? It was like a British joke, something about Cheerios, tea, crumpets, something.
I hate tea.
No, you do not hate tea.
I hate tea. It's terrible. It's leaf water.
What kind of Brit is that?
It's hot leaf. Well, why do you think I left? I was kicked out.
That's the number, right?
Right. No, she called the right number. I just couldn't hear her. Go ahead and have her call one more time. Let's try it again. All right. So sorry about that once again, audience. And then you're like, okay, so here she is again. Let's try it one more time. Let's try it again. I can hear her. Hello, Morgan, can you hear me? Hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me?
That would be a no.
No. Jeez, what's going on? No.
Uh-oh. Is there a mute button on her side?
There has to be. Because on our side, I can hear her, but she can't hear me.
What about the microphone button?
Microphone button?
Hello? No. Hello? Is her receiver on?
I'll see if her volume's up. Good idea.
Oh no, this is.
Hold on. We're
Disastrous. Charlie will improvise a short song.
No, I will promote Mike Riley's new rap song.
Right, it's coming soon.
Hello?
That's for sure. Hello, can you hear me? Hello. Hello, hello.
Guten Tag.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna have until she can hear us. When she hears us back, I'm sure she'll say something. I'm gonna have Brooke kind of work that out on the end. She's still on the line, but you guys just won't be able to hear her. That's all. So, but she's definitely still on the line. So when she responds, we'll go ahead and get into it. I'll be trying to troubleshoot it in the meantime and in between time. But while we're doing that, let's we'll go ahead and shift into this next news story here. Yeah, right. So we'll I know this sucks. I'm sorry, but we'll talk about we'll just go ahead and just dip into the next subject real quick. So, so earlier this week in Chile, there was this guy. I think it was I want to say it was in Chile. It might have been in Argentina, but one of the South American countries, right? So this dude, he's stripped naked basically, and he jumped inside of a lion's cage in order to try to commit suicide. And so he did this, and it, obviously was a pretty dangerous choice. And when he did this, the lion started to maul him obviously, and there's a video of this on YouTube you can go watch. And as the lions started to maul him, the zookeepers came and shot and killed both of the lions. Now, and the guy's still alive. Now, this kind of disturbed me a little bit. And then also, too, there was this YouTube video floating around this week. I don't know if y'all saw it. There was this little girl who got pulled into the water by a seal. Did anybody see that?
I don't think anyone didn't see it.
Yeah, right.
If you haven't seen it, you've been living in a hole.
Right. I have been living in a hole, by the way, so please don't make fun of people who live in holes.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to discriminate.
Exactly. No, but you know, and this kind of got me thinking about in terms of like animal rights. Now, I'm kind of like a big, huge animal rights kind of guy, and I don't really think it's fair that the guy who tried to commit suicide and jumped inside of a lion's den to get mauled by lions, I don't think it's fair that the lions got shot. I don't think it's fair that Harambe got shot for trying to save that little baby that jumped inside the gorilla thing either. I mean, I don't know how it is for y'all out there in TV land, but for me, zoos, I'm such a big animal rights person. Like, I don't even go to zoos. I can't stand zoos. I think they're
despicable. Absolutely despicable.
And just a little historical fact for y'all. Back in the early 20th century at the Bronx Zoo, they actually had a human exhibit. And it was a kid from Africa, a little black kid from Africa. Because they back then they still thought, black people were like a lesser evolutionary species or something. But anyway.
It's a whole other conversation.
Yeah, whole nother world. But anyway, back to what I was saying. I'm just curious to know what people think about this idea of having animals and treating them in captive and being inhumane to them and expecting them to act civil, and then when they act like animals, killing them. I think that particular kind of notion within our human kind of existence, especially at this point, I don't know. I think it really needs to be questioned now. I mean, what is going on here in situations like that?
I think it's so unbelievable that we can't even solve our own human rights. We can't even get those rights yet. And I don't know. It's absolutely despicable, the things that we seem to think are okay to do to animals because we don't understand them. And when you don't understand something, it's natural to fear it. And thus you want to contain it. And that's where we get zoos and, these majestic,
aquariums,
these majestic
things like that.
Wild things become sport. They become...
Yeah, and on top of that, it's almost like what do you expect to happen in a situation like that? I mean, back in the day, they used to think like animals didn't even feel pain when you killed them.
I mean, if a lion walked up to you, you'd try and kill it.
Right. Exactly.
He just did the same thing to the lion.
All right, y'all. We'll be right back. We're going to try to get Morgan Geffner on the line one more time. We're going to give this another attempt. We'll be right back. Mike Riley Now podcast here, Young Angels.
You are listening to the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com.
Here, hand that to Brooke for me. Yeah. All right, y'all. Welcome back. It is the Mike Riley Now podcast here on the Young Angels of America Network. All right, y'all. We are going to try Miss Morgan Geffner one more again. All right, so we're going to try to pick up the phone again. Here we go. All right, so I got it now. Morgan, can you hear me?
Damn it.
No, she still can't hear me.
Solid no.
That is a solid into the Izzo. I wonder if there's something going on our end.
Probably. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, me either. It's always something, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is the world that we live in.
We'll fix it at the end and get her on next week.
Yeah, we'll have to fix it again and get her on next week. Sorry. Yeah, just let her know. We'll have her on next week. That sucks. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. That sucks. Morgan,
if you're listening, we're really sorry.
Morgan, if you're listening, I'm really sorry. I apologize. I really wanted you on.
Very excited to talk.
Yeah.
I had so many things I wanted to ask you about the Women's March and about women's rights, and we were going to talk women tonight, which is probably one of my favorite subjects.
For a lot of reasons.
Different reasons than Cam and I, probably.
Right.
I think so.
Anyway, but so shout out to Morgan Geffner. We're gonna have her on next week. Or unless we can figure out what the hell is going on here tonight. I do apologize about that. This is a one-man bandstand as far as the engineering goes, but whatever. You know what does always work is MikeRileyNow.com and YoungAngelsNetwork.org. So you're going to log on to that. You're going to subscribe. You're going to say what's up. You're going to follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and all that cool stuff. And you're going to leave some feedback because that is the internet is some reliable shit. Thank you so much, Al Gore, for that. All right, y'all. And once again, I want to give a big shout out to Gabby and Amy. Right? Man, I'd never get names right. Holy shit. These
You still get us mixed up.
I know that's the other.
I mean, to be fair, we're two blonde girls, but still.
Hey,
we still look pretty different.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I get all the Ninja Turtles mixed up. So if I can do that, then I can mix y'all up too.
You mean like Michelangelo?
Uh-oh. Don't talk about it now. Don't talk about it. Yeah. All right. She's talking about my old rap name back in the day. All right, y'all. Let's get into the third segment here. So we usually talk economics in our third segment. We're going to talk a little something different tonight.
A little break.
We'll give a little break from economics. We'll get into economics next week. So in the South right now, not necessarily in the South, but I would say in in the South, in New Orleans and places like that, there is this huge fight going on to remove Confederate monuments, basically monuments that give praise to the former Confederacy. And if you go to the South, you'll notice that this is a pretty prominent thing and I'm not talking about in private places. You know, the United States of America, our Constitution says that you have the right to express yourself by any means you see fit. That means if the Ku Klux Klan wants to have a parade down the street, knock yourself out. If you want to hang a Confederate flag from your door, or if you want to hang a Nazi flag on the back of your car, can't nobody tell you different. People will give you shit for it, but you can do whatever you want, right? When it comes to Confederate monuments and things that kind of give praise to the Confederacy, in the former Confederacy and also too in other places as well, it's not always a private thing. A lot of these things are public monuments, things that are being paid for by public taxes by the people. In South Carolina, there was that huge fight to remove the Confederate flag from the grounds of the state capitol, especially after that Dylan Roof thing happened. A lot of people were pissed because they're like, motherfucker, my tax dollars are paying to give praise to the former Confederacy.
To keep that flag flapping in the wind.
Exactly. And, and this is a system that existed that believed in keeping people in bondage, believed in keeping Africans, black people in bondage. So what's happening right now is in New Orleans, the mayor of New Orleans, his name is Mitch Landrieu, if I said his name right. That's a very French name. He's from he's from somewhere down there in Louisiana. But he has issued ordinance to remove the Confederate monuments from New Orleans. He doesn't want them there anymore. We're talking about statues of like Robert E. Lee. There was this huge monument to like Stonewall Jackson and the former Confederates. And his reasoning why is a pretty good reasoning. Now, in the midst of that, he has been catching a slew of backlash. He's been getting death threats. There was everybody knows about Richard Spencer, our favorite white supremacist. He led, I hope to God I get him on this show one day. I would love to talk to that dude. I would love to have a conversation with Richard Spencer. It'd be a good conversation. It'd be a good conversation too. Because
you have a conversation. I'll have a screaming match.
That's like my fantasy for this show is to have where
pick his brain.
Yeah, I just got wait, what do you believe? But he led a march down in Louisiana where the guys had tiki torches and they were walking around. Trying to do like the old Ku Klux Klan thing where they walk around with the torches to lead a protest against removing the monuments. That a lot of sympathizers of the Confederacy say, well, it's just there for our heritage and it represents Southern heritage and represents Southern history. Before I get on to the next step of that, why do you have to use that particular symbol to represent Southern heritage? Like you can't use like a mint julep or like a peach tree or a magnolia tree or some shit. You have to use the Confederate flag. Anyway, also too in Mississippi at the same time, the Mississippi state legislature, or at least their state government, the blacks that are in the state government, and a lot of the Democrats and a lot of the whites too, are refusing to. They're staging a protest in the state government because the Confederate flag is also within the Mississippi state flag. Their state flag still holds the symbol of the Confederacy, basically this mock nation that's separated from the United States so they can preserve slavery for that reason. Now, it kind of makes me think, what is with this fight to hold on to the Confederacy so much? I'm going to play you a little clip here from Mayor Mitch Landrieu, and he gave an amazing speech a couple of days ago, and this was not anywhere in the media, of course, but he gave an amazing speech about why he wanted to remove the monuments. I'm going to play you a little bit.
New Orleans was one of America's largest slave markets, a port where hundreds of thousands of souls were bought, sold, and shipped up the Mississippi River to lives of forced labor, of misery, of rape, and of torture. America was a place where nearly 4,000 of our fellow American citizens were lynched, 540 in Louisiana alone, where our courts enshrined separate but equal, where freedom riders were beaten to a bloody pulp. So when people say to me that the monuments in question are history, well, what I just described to you is our history as well. Mm-hmm. And it is a searing truth. And it immediately begs the question why there are no slave ship monuments, no prominent markers on public land to remember the lynchings or the slave blocks, nothing to remember this long chapter of our lives of pain, of sacrifice, of shame, all of it happening on the soil of New Orleans. So for those self-appointed defenders of history and the monuments, they are eerily silent on what amounts to historical malfeasance, a lie by omission. There is a difference, you see, between remembrance of history and the reverence of it.
Very well said. I'm going to go ahead. Yeah.
Can he write Trump's next speech?
We'd also just like to put out there that we really, really like his voice.
Very much so. I love that accent.
Yeah, he's a cool dude. I'm going to play you a little other expert. This is a very important part of the speech to me. Check this out.
And it corrects them. So today I want to speak about why we chose to remove these 4 monuments to the lost cause of the Confederacy, but also how and...
Wait, I'm going to pause right there. The lost cause of the Confederacy. The lost cause. Jefferson Davis, the former president of the Confederacy, wrote a book about that. The Rise and Fall of the Confederate States of America, where he called it the lost cause. That's essentially what they're giving praise to. And Mayor Landrieu goes on to say
why this process can move us towards healing and understanding each other. So let's start with the facts. The historic record is clear. Robert E. Lee, Jeff Davis, P.G.T. Beauregard statues were not erected to just honor these men, but as part of a movement which became known as the cult of the lost cause. This cult had one goal and one goal only: through monuments and through other means, to rewrite history, to hide the truth, which is that the Confederacy was on the wrong side of humanity. First erected one...
Bam. And that's pretty much where you have it. They're erecting these monuments to give praise to this lost cause of the Confederacy, this treasonous state that decided to secede from the Union in order to preserve slavery. Not to preserve, because they feared that Abraham Lincoln was going to abolish it, because he and the Republican Party at the time didn't want it to expand in the new territories. Keep in mind, Abraham Lincoln didn't want to abolish slavery at first. He actually came up with something that was called the Carwin Amendment. And the Carwin Amendment, which he didn't pass because the slaveholding South just didn't want to let go of those slaves. It was an amendment where they were going to ship all the blacks off to Liberia. And they were going to set us up a colony, and, it was supposed to be gradual so the slave owners wouldn't lose their economic hold. But, they didn't want to let go of those slaves. So instead of just accepting things like that, they said, screw it. We're going to make our own country.
And, getting rid of these monuments, I think people kind of forget that these men are immortalized already. They're in our history books. Cameron, Abby and I, we've all learned about them, this year in US history. It's not like getting rid of these monuments will forever erase their names from history. They're there. I mean, they're stained. They're a dark stain on our history, but they're stained there forever, and I understand recognizing your history and owning up to it, but not revering it. Don't look at it through rose-tinted glasses and only pick out the important things. We were for states' rights and we spoke our mind about our beliefs. Yes, but your beliefs were slavery. Do not praise something that you should look at with remorse.
Absolutely. And you're right. They do pick those parts out, and they do act like history is going to be erased. We haven't forgotten about Hitler or Mussolini or Stalin, but we just don't praise them. We don't glorify that movement.
You don't see Germany keeping the Nazi swastika on their flag, going, well, we're remembering our history.
Exactly. And I don't get how people don't get that.
And if you look at, what Germany is now, I mean, they've so gone in another direction because of their history. They don't forget it, and they're better because of it. They've understood the horrors that they've committed in the past, and they keep that with them every day to move forwards to a better future. Whereas I think the South is incapable of doing that because they're holding on in the wrong way. They're holding on as if it was the good old days, as opposed to a time they should hold heavy on their backs.
Absolutely. And of all people, George W. Bush said, we don't ignore history. When he was dedicating the African American Museum of History when he was president, and he said, we acknowledge it. We learn from it. George W. Bush said that. Starting to miss the guy, unfortunately. That's a horrible thing. I never thought I'd be saying that. Lord have mercy. I owe somebody some money. I'm like, yeah, right? I bet, the day I say I miss George W. Bush, I owe you $1,000. Somebody out there.
With interest.
With interest. What's funny, too? One of the big talking points on the right, I always hear when they argue, you see this on Twitter all the time. They're always like, well, it was the Democrats who wanted to abolish or who kept on to slavery and wanted to hold on to the Confederacy and all this other stuff. I'm like, man, give me a break. Are you serious? They always argue that. They always try to twist it around. And then they say, well, now it's the Democrats now who want to keep black people down by keeping them dependent on government. And give me a break. Which party is the one flying the Confederate flag now? I'm going to tell you, it ain't the Democrats.
It doesn't matter who did it in the past. It matters who's doing it now.
It just ain't about back then, bro.
And if you're so focused on history, why don't you talk about the fact that the majority of the African-American vote turned to Democrats?
Right. They think that was some sort of trick that the Democratic Party pulled on black people. They just tricked you into it so they can get your vote. Are you serious?
Maybe.
And what are y'all doing?
Look at what you did at that point that made them turn.
Right. A lot of people don't want to ever acknowledge the great split that happened between the Republicans and Democrats. A lot of people think it happened in the 60s. It happened long before that. It happened during the Warren G. Harding administration. Basically Teddy Roosevelt was the last progressive Republican. So a lot of things. We didn't get into Sean Hannity tonight, and I really wanted to talk about his punk ass, but we'll talk about that later. That is our show, ladies and gentlemen. I want to thank everybody for showing up, for tuning in. God bless every single last one of you listening. God bless Gabby. Yes, God bless Gabby. God bless Amy. God bless Brooke, Charlie. God bless my girl Cam. And God bless my girl Morgan. Sorry we didn't get a chance to talk to you tonight. We will get you next week. That means you got to tune in next week. This is the Mike Riley Now podcast. And always remember, ladies and gentlemen, to quote an amazing and great scholar, democracy is not a spectator sport. You have to get involved. Go out there, sign up, join your local political group, wave your fist around, do what you got to do, because this is important. It affects every single last one of us, because we are all in this together. All right, y'all. God bless every single last one of you. See you next week. Cheers.
I'm so done with him.
To the Mike Riley Now podcast on the Young Angels of America Network. Follow us by visiting MikeRileyNow.com.